Anderson Silva, the greatest middleweight in UFC history. 16 consecutive wins, 10 title defenses. But one fatal mistake shattered his legacy. He lost everything: titles, reputation, millions. Was it doping, pride, or something darker? Why did the UFC erase him from their textbooks? And how did he end up in poverty, fighting YouTubers? This is the forbidden truth about the King's fall. In 2013, Anderson Silva was not just the UFC middleweight champion, he was a living legend of the sport. His stats were terrifying: 16 consecutive UFC wins, an absolute record, 10 successful title defenses, 14 finishes. But the numbers were not the main story. His fighting style rewrote MMA textbooks. Capoeira in the octagon. He literally danced around opponents like in Brazilian martial arts, making impossible evasions. Remember his slips against Forrest Griffin. Jiu-jitsu with flair. 5 submission victories, including a triangle choke against Chael Sonnen in the 5th round, when he was losing on points. Psychological terror. Before fights, he hypnotized opponents, making them believe in his invincibility. Rich Franklin later admitted, "I lost before we even stepped into the cage when I saw his cold stare." July 6, 2013, UFC 162, Round 1. Silva didn't just taunt Weidman, he humiliated him. He stood with his hands down, slapped his own chest with an open palm, and even kissed his opponent's neck during the clinch. Weidman's coach Ray Longo shouted from the corner, "He doesn't respect you." Round 2, 118. Silva danced again, sticking out his tongue to the crowd. At that moment, Weidman threw a left hook to the jaw, a punch Silva usually read like an open book. But this time, the Spider didn't dodge in time. The fall was epic in every sense. Silva collapsed on the canvas with a glazed look in his eyes. His legs twitched unnaturally in the air, a classic leg phenomenon in a knockout. Referee Herb Dean stopped the fight immediately. Silva didn't even try to get up. It wasn't just a knockout. It was the end of a 2,457-day championship reign, UFC record. The collapse of the invincible God image Silva had built for 7 years. The moment the entire MMA world realized the King is mortal. Silva later admitted in the documentary Like Water, "I didn't lose because of the punch. I lost because of my pride. I thought I could get away with everything." Irony? In the rematch 6 months later, Silva broke his leg on a low kick. His signature strike. It became the perfect metaphor. His career shattered as suddenly and brutally as his tibia. After that fight, UFC changed forever. A new generation of fighters realized legends can be defeated. And Silva, he never fully recovered mentally. His next 7 UFC fights resulted in just 1 win, a controversial decision, and 6 losses. The myth of the infallible crumbled to dust alongside his reputation after doping scandals. But that knockout by Weidman remains a turning point in MMA history. The moment an era ended. January 2015. Anderson Silva was preparing for a comeback after his leg injury. A fight against Nick Diaz awaited him. But 3 days before the fight, an atomic bomb dropped. His drug test came back positive for stanozolol, an anabolic steroid, and drostanolone, another banned anabolic. UFC immediately suspended him, Though they allowed the fight to happen, the result would later be overturned. The shock was threefold. Number 1. For the fans, Silva had always portrayed himself as a clean fighter. Fans in Brazil burned his shirts outside the UFC gym in Rio. Number 2. For the UFC, Dana White publicly called it the biggest disappointment of my career. The organization removed all mentions of his record-breaking win streak from the official website. Number 3. For science, WADA experts later confirmed that the stanozolol in his test was fresh, administered 2 to 4 weeks before testing, not years ago as Silva tried to claim. His excuses sounded absurd even by MMA standards. Viagra. He claimed he took a sex-enhancing drug from Thailand that might have been contaminated, though stanozolol is never found in such products. My friend's urine. In an ESPN interview, he said he might have accidentally drunk from a bottle where a friend urinated. Tests confirmed it was his own DNA. Conspiracy. His lawyers tried to dispute sample storage procedures, but videos showed proper handling. The punishment: 1 year suspension, unusually lenient for these substances. Loss of victory over Diaz. $380,000 fine, 10% of his purse. But the real blow came in 2017, before his fight with Kelvin Gastelum. His drug test came back positive for methyltestosterone, a powerful anabolic steroid. This time, Nevada handed him a lifetime ban, later reduced to 2 years. UFC terminated his contract without payouts, losing $15 million invested in his legendary status. Consequences: financial loss of $3.5 million in guaranteed payouts, plus $20 million in potential bonuses. Reputational: his name was removed from the UFC intro video after 10 years. Psychological: in a 2018 interview, he admitted he wanted to die after his sons asked, "Dad, why did you cheat?" The most painful moment? In 2019, USADA published a study citing his case as an example of systemic doping. Next to it, a photo of his broken leg with the caption, "Fragility of an artificial god." The irony: his last clean fight, a loss to Weidman, marked the beginning of the end. All subsequent attempts to return through doping only hastened the fall. As Joe Rogan said, he tried to become the Silva he could no longer be, and even destroyed the memory of the real one. Anderson Silva's financial fall was so rapid that even his most devoted fans couldn't grasp the full scale of the disaster. After 2 doping scandals and the UFC contract termination, the former champion found himself in a financial abyss he couldn't climb out of, even years later. The mansion in a prestigious Los Angeles neighborhood, bought at the peak of his fame for $3.2 million, had to be sold to cover debts. The reasons were not just the $1.5 million USADA fines, but also a series of lawsuits from former coaches and promoters demanding compensation for unpaid percentages. In a Brazilian TV interview, Silva admitted that at one point, his bank account held less than $50,000, a laughable amount for a man whose UFC purses once reached $1 million per fight. The year 2021 was especially humiliating. Instead of headlining UFC events, Silva ended up in a boxing ring against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a fighter whose career was already considered over. For this bout, he earned just $100,000, the same amount he once made for a single Instagram post. Fans watched with sorrow as the MMA legend, who once instilled fear in the world's most dangerous fighters, was now forced to earn a living in spectacle fights against aging boxers. But the real blow to Silva's pride came in 2022 in the fight against Jake Paul. The 8-round bout against a YouTuber who had only been training in boxing for a few years was supposed to be an easy walk. Instead, the world watched as the 47-year-old Brazilian broke his leg after missing a low kick, the very strike that had once secured him dozens of victories. This moment became a painful metaphor for his late career. The same low kick that once shattered opponents and made arenas rise in ovation now shattered him. In the hospital, Silva learned that his insurance wouldn't cover all the medical expenses. An ironic finale for a man who, in his prime, spent tens of thousands on unconventional medicine and shamanic rituals. After this fight, Silva finally became a caricature of himself. His name is no longer associated with his record-breaking UFC streak, but with pathetic attempts to cling to the remnants of glory in bouts against bloggers and aging fighters. As one of his former coaches said, Anderson died twice, first as a fighter, then as a legend. Anderson Silva didn't lose to Weidman or USADA. He lost to himself, to his belief in his own invincibility. Now, the 48-year-old Spider trains children in Brazil for $200 an hour. His former opponents are in the Hall of Fame. His name is in textbooks as a warning. The king is dead. Long live who? Like and subscribe to the channel. If this video reaches 100K likes, we'll break down his magical pre-fight rituals. Why did he drink bird's blood and wear dead insects in his gloves?